Hello everyone, Marcus here, and today we're going to be doing a quick impressions video of Sword Art Online Season 2, Episode 9, Death Gun. So let's get this started. Overall, my impressions of this episode were more or less similar to my impressions of last week's episode in terms of my enjoyment. I mean, there were a few scenes that managed to really impress me, a few scenes that made me go, what? And for the most part, I'd actually say this episode was a little better than last week's, since we were more on focus and we got a lot more information out as compared to last week's, where we kind of left off on a cliffhanger. Although, then again, they did the exact same thing this week, so maybe that's not the best way to put it. But overall, this episode was pretty good, and if you liked last week's episode, you're probably going to like this one just as much. So, yep, give it a good look-see over at Crunchyroll, Daisuki, or whatever anime viewing service you want to use. Now that we're through with overall impressions, time for the spoilers. The episode kicks off with Asuna, Klein, and everybody else from SAO and ALO hanging out over in ALO, watching the GGO tournament, Bullet of Bullets, play out. They're observing the whole situation with Pale Rider and Dine, and really do think that it's kind of cool how awesome Pale Rider is during that scene. However, they're all stunned once a Death Gun appears out of nowhere and takes out Pale Rider throughout the situation. I mean, he's stunned, everyone's trying to get an observation of what's going on, but then Asuna, Klein, and a few of the SAO survivors start to notice that Death Gun's demeanor and his overall just appearance is evoking a bit of a memory of Sword Art Online for them, something that gets punctuated a little bit later. We see the situation over from Kirito and Shinon's perspective now, where Kirito has instructed Shinon since last episode, shoot the guy, hurry up so he doesn't shoot. She takes the shot, but unfortunately it misses since it seems that Death Gun was completely aware of their presence, and as such he managed to dodge it real quick like that, and takes a good look at them before finally going for the killing shot on Pale Rider, which actually ends up not doing all that much damage in the game sense. I mean, we can see him just stand up after the stun's starting to wear off and try to take a shot, but then all of a sudden he starts displaying the same symptoms the last player that died via Death Gun had, whereby all of a sudden he starts grabbing his chest and starts convulsing, attempting to reach up into the sky before finally disconnecting. We can probably take that to mean that he's died, unfortunately. So, to our dismay, our heroes did not manage to save at least one person. That whole scenario having been recorded, this completely starts to get a little bit of the signals going off in Asuna's mind, which are confirmed by Klein, who drops his glass of, I think, some form of ale, and results in him reminiscing, saying that that member is probably somebody who used to be in Phantom Coffin, the murder guild, which immediately just terrifies Asuna, and starts getting everyone worried about exactly what Kirito's doing here, and making them fear a little bit for his own personal safety in this situation. After having just seen what just played out before their eyes, Kirito finally takes the time to explain a little bit of who that person is to Shinon, so she can kind of get a bit of a grasp of what he wants to do in this game exactly, although she's still probably a little bit out of the loop since he still hasn't straight up just said, I'm from SAO. Although, she probably inferred that by now. So, they decide to try to see if they can take him out right there to prevent any more deaths, although it appears that he isn't appearing on the scans. Considering that the river's right there, they take it to assume that he's gone into the river in order to avoid being spotted, which eventually just makes them decide, okay, we'll have to follow this guy, so let's try to go along the river. In the process of doing this, they end up getting ambushed by another player, something that doesn't really work well since it seems like Kirito has a sixth sense or something that allows him to predict when another player is coming by. So he manages to start blocking bullets in a pretty awesome scene. I have to admit, this is one of my favorite scenes in this whole show so far, which is kind of cool just seeing him just block bullet after bullet without even the hints of having any of them touch him this time, I think, which is probably impressing Shinon like crazy. But she takes a shot, and they finally decide, let's just go around and find this guy. They predict that he's probably heading into the city since it's the best place for a sniper-like player like Death Gun to go, since there's plenty of cover and places to hide. With Asuna and Klein and everybody over in ALO completely worried about Kirito's sake, Asuna decides to take some action. She decides she's going to log out and contact Kirito's employer in order to figure out exactly what's going on, and instructs Yui to look into any information that she can from the virtual side. Everyone's pretty concerned for Kirito at this stage, so let's see how that's going to go, although they don't touch on it later up in this episode again. So they go there, but they realize, or at least Kirito is made to realize, Death Gun isn't his actual player name. Who is this guy's player name? They make the assumption that since Death Gun is a new player, he must be one of the 4 players we previously mentioned. Well, 3 if we don't count Kirito. And without Pale Rider, that only leaves 2 players. Sturban and Gunner X. They take it that Gunner is probably similar to Gun, as in Death Gun, and X is similar to the cross gesture that he made. So they take it that he's probably been that character. So they split up and say Kirito is going to go and try to flank the guy from the side, with Shinon as backup support from a distance. Having just split up now, Shinon is lost in thought a little bit as she's walking towards her destination in order to support Kirito from the distance. However, in the process, she is suddenly hit with a stun bullet, reminiscent if not exactly the same as the one used earlier on Pale Rider, to which point we suddenly see that Death Gun reveals himself from what appears to be some kind of cloaking device that made him invisible, and appears before Shinon, just basically monologuing to himself, saying how her death will most likely incite rage in the real Kirito, and probably not much in the fake one, which, as a result, starts to scare Shinon, although she really gets concerned the moment that she sees the gun that he has in his hand. It appears to be the Black Star 45 or something like that, which is the exact same model that she used earlier in her childhood in order to kill someone. It's a bit of a contrived coincidence, but hey, it ups the drama, and it completely takes away her will, because she was trying to get a gun out from her back from the stunned position, but after she sees that gun, she just completely loses her energy. At which point, the episode ends off with the sound of a loud bang! At which point, we have to see to the next episode to figure out what happens. Although she is a very main character, so we all know this is a shonen series, they won't kill her off, right? Well, overall, I kind of like the pacing for this episode in some degrees. I mean, they never really let us completely get distracted, and I think I managed to enjoy it the whole way through, as compared to some of the previous episodes where some bits were good, some bits were meh, some bits were awesome. So, yeah, that was pretty good overall, and I can't wait to see next episode, whereby we see how things pan out, since this basically makes it twice now that they've ended the episode off with a bang. Now that we know overall what happened, I just want to take a few notes on some things. Again, I'm finding Kirito's forwardness with Shino just plain old grabbing her hand and instructing her on what to do a bit uncomfortable at this stage. I mean, it isn't as bad as last week where he just keeps on pinning her down or holding her up against himself, but at the same time, I'm not sure I'm really feeling comfortable with the way they're treating Shinon at this stage, especially since the end of the episode just completely disempowers her, which is really making me start to feel bad for the initial image they crafted. What is it with Sword Art Online and crafting up a cool image initially and then just breaking them down? That aside, we also have the whole cloaking device situation at the end of the episode. I'm starting to think that you can probably ascertain that the cloaking device has some kind of significance to why Death Gun wasn't detected on the radars, since Shinon and Kirito probably would have noted Death Gun's position or somebody's position on the map if Shinon was going to go to a certain position, so they would have gone, who's this player here? At which point they would have probably reacted. But since they didn't appear, that probably implies that that cloaking device may be the method that Death Gun's using in order to avoid being detected, instead of going along the water like they had originally predicted, as Kirito had done previously. On another note, I'm really kind of liking the whole ALO watching GGO thing. It almost kind of feels comfortable, since a lot of people forget that you can do a lot of things in virtual reality aside from actually playing games. In this case, they're basically using it as a form of virtual chat room, kind of similar like to Google Hangouts or something like that. So it's kind of cool to see them just relaxing, drinking something as they watch the matches go on. And I'm kind of excited to see how that'll pan out better in virtual reality right now, because I've actually tried a demo that's kind of similar in certain respects with the virtual cinema experience, where you can go around in a movie theater and see stuff like a movie or whatever videos the players are streaming at the time. So it's kind of cool to think that we're actually starting to see the early inklings of stuff like that already with things like the Oculus Rift DK1 and 2. Well, everyone, that just about does it for my impressions of Sword Art Online Season 2, Episode 9, Death Gun. Come back next week in order to see my impressions of Episode 10, and let's see how things pan out, whether or not Shinon will actually survive this ordeal, and what Kirito will do, and what Asuna's gonna find out. Well, everyone, this is Marcus Dahl, lying out.